One of the most overlooked skills of all the friendship skills is your conversation skills. It's about how well you're able to connect with people. The problem is that nobody is born with good conversation skills, and let's face it, most people aren't that great at it. Maybe you dominate conversations, but you don't realize it. Maybe you'd like to go deeper with your friends, but you don't know how. Or you are shy about expressing yourself, especially in a group. The good news is that anyone can improve their conversation skills once they realize what their weakest areas are and how they can improve them. I've spent 8 years as the founder and international coordinator of the Meaningful Discussions Project, and along the way, I've helped to coordinate over 1,500 events in 11 countries. I've hosted around 200 events myself with approximately 60 different topics, so I've spent a lot of time thinking about conversation skills, and I've witnessed firsthand how they can make a huge difference when it comes to the friendship process, specifically when it comes to meeting potential friends in your city and making a good first impression, turning a potential friend into an actual friend, spending time with friends, and deepening your friendships. Now, I realize that a lot of people may have never thought about their conversation skills before, so I've broken up this section of the bootcamp into basic and advanced conversation skills. Before we get to the worksheets, I'm going to share with you the top 3 ways that you can immediately improve your conversations. Number 1, don't dominate the conversation. The biggest mistake that people make is to monopolize or dominate the conversation. The main reason for this is not because they're bad people, but simply because they're usually excited and enthusiastic to be talking to you. Maybe they just discovered that they have a lot in common with you and they can't wait to share a bunch of ideas with you. Unfortunately, this is a huge turnoff for most people, and it's one of the main reasons why people who dominate conversations find it hard to make friends. If you're one of those people, then just try to be mindful of how long you're talking compared to the person that you're having a conversation with. Don't be afraid of a few seconds of silence once in a while, just to let the conversation breathe. And if you're talking in a group of, let's say, 5 people, then try to think of your conversation space as 1/5 of the time that you share with others. If you're tempted to tell a long story to someone, make sure they're really interested in what you have to say first. And make sure that you're monitoring their body language as you tell the story, just to make sure that you're keeping it moving forward and that you're actually maintaining their interest. Lastly, try to get better at summarizing your ideas before you start talking. This will also help you to be better at wrapping up your point that you're trying to make. It's easy if you just think of a conversation like playing frisbee with one or more people. Just like with frisbee, you only have it for a bit and then you throw it back to someone else, and you do your best to include everyone who wants to play. Number 2, spending time with someone is a privilege. We often get lost in our own thoughts, our own ideas, and our own lives, and we forget about how much of an honor and a privilege it is for someone to give their time to us, even if it's just for a few minutes at a social gathering. So, a super easy thing to remember in any social situation is to not take your conversations for granted. So when you're in a conversation, do your best to be in that conversation and to be in that moment by giving that person or group of people your undivided attention and your presence. So don't be distracted by your phone, and in fact, do your best not to use your phone at all when in conversations with other people. And finally, number 3, be flexible and spontaneous. One of the best ways to prevent your conversations from getting boring is to be flexible and spontaneous as much as possible. You can do this by being open to the conversation going in a completely different direction based on someone new joining the conversation, or when something that was said in the conversation sparks a new idea which someone wants to share in the moment. People who are able to be flexible and spontaneous are much more likely to be invited to social gatherings compared to people who are very rigid. At this point, I want you to find the basic and advanced conversation skills worksheets, and using a pencil, place an X beside the areas that you would like to improve on, and place a check mark beside the areas that you're very confident about. In the next section, we're going to be covering making first contact with potential friends and making small talk. So I'll see you in the next section.